Good afternoon, one and all. Warm welcome to day 6 of GATE training program. Education is the most powerful weapon which can be used to change the world. With this quote of Nelson Mandela, I, Arjun V, sign in as Master of Ceremony for today's GATE training program organized by Department of Civil Engineering, VVCE, Mysore. Today, we have with us Professor Abhilash B L for the first session, who is going to speak on construction material and management. Professor Abhilash B L has a 5 years of experience in teaching. Prior to working in Vidyavardhaka College of Engineering, he has worked 2 years as assistant professor in Atria Institute of Technology, Bangalore, and 1 year experience as assistant professor in City Engineering College, Bangalore. Along with that, he has an working experience as a green building engineer in Eco 360 holistic sustainable solution from last 4.5 years. His areas of interest are sustainability, alternative building materials and construction technology, and concrete technology, and also the design concepts of building services. He has delivered several guest lectures throughout the state, and he has published a number of papers in a reputed national and international journals. His uh, his project has been sponsored by KSCST in the previous 2018-19 for improving the indoor thermal efficiency through utilizing waste by passive techniques. He is pursuing his PhD in the passive techniques. He has membership in several professional bodies such as members. He is a member of Indian Geotechnical Society, member of Indian Society for Technical Education, he is a member for Indian Green Building Council. With this brief introduction, I hand over the session to today's speaker, Professor Abhilash B L. Over to you, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Professor Arjun sir. Thank you for the brief introduction about me. Yes, now I am going to share my screen.
Yes, I hope I am audible and my screen is visible. Well, today I am going to start with a new topic, that is construction materials and management, where this is around 5 to 1% of overall GATE syllabus is covered in this particular topic. And these are the keywords I am concentrating on today's lecture. That is, the first thing is the concrete, next is the structural steel, brick, timber, and the management part, estimation and costing, and overall aspect of a construction management. Let us go further. If we go with respect to the of GATE 2022 syllabus, here are some of the different construction materials and management aspects which deals with the different syllabus, that is concrete constituents, mixed design, short-term and long-term properties, structural steel, and what are the composition of a steel, material properties and behavior, construction management, types of construction projects which we are going to handle in the actual construction site, and we are comparing with respect to that of conventional with respect to the of sustainability aspect. And last is project planning and network analysis per ton CPM and overall cost estimation of this topic. Yes, if we check the overall history of these particular subjects where construction material stands in this part. It was started in the 2012 as a new subject, that is construction materials and management, where the percentage of the marks cut off will deals from the 5% to 0.5%. You can observe here from the gate 16 to gate 2020, we can observe different marks cut off based on the percentages. Yes. Let us start with the different construction materials which will be useful for our GATE 2022. We know our different materials which are there in the conventional sites, right? Like different fine aggregate, coarse aggregate. In the fine aggregate and coarse aggregate, we can see the different size and shapes which will be required for the construction aspect. Similarly, in order to manufacture the masonry units such as bricks, blocks, like that, there are different units which are considered for the construction masonry walls. So we can identify the each individual materials in order to construct the components of an building product. Here, the major product is concrete. The concrete generally, everyone knows that these are a mixture of different materials, that is fine aggregate, coarse aggregate, and some admixtures in order to have the air retarders, super plasticizers, air entrainers, like that. There are different types of plasticizers. These are some of the mixtures which are added for the concrete. And we know the ratios 1 is to 2 is to 4, 1 is to 4 is to 6, 1 is to 6 is to 12, based on the grades of the cement like M20, M25, M30, M35. Like this, it varies based on the different grades of an cement. Yes. Coming to that of first material in the production of the concrete, we are concentrating majorly on some of the important terms and aspects which are possibilities in order to get in our examination, right? Coming to the of production of the cement, that is dry process as well as the wet process. Here, it depends upon the type of moisture content which you are going to add for the manufacturing of a concrete thing. Here, the dry process represent, as the name itself indicate, the less amount of water is used, or in the absence of water. Complete process is done in the absence of water. You can identify here 74% of cement is produced in this type of process. Coming to that of wet process, here you can generally have the differentiation between the different materials, where dry process acquire very strong and hard materials, whereas in the wet process, somewhat it will be in the soft manner. In order to consider these strong and hard materials and soft materials, we need to understand the overall aspect of the material properties. I hope we have studied in our bachelor's regarding the strength of the materials or the building material and construction, where we have understood the properties and characteristic strength of each individual materials like bulk density, specific gravity, grading of aggregates. Like that, we have already understood the foundation of this material, right? Fine. Coming to the tough cement, we are done with the wet process and dry process and how much amount of percentage we can obtain from this particular process. Whereas if we go with the cement, some of the types of cement which are available in the market are 33 grade, 43 grade, 53 grade, where OPC stands for ordinary Portland cement, which conforming to the different IS codes which I have mentioned here. If we open that particular IS 269, we can identify the overall characteristic property of a 33 grade cement. They might ask regarding the multiple choice questions like what does the 33 grade, which IS code may represents the particular grade of a cement. Other than the 33, 43, 53 grade of a cement, we can observe the rapid hardening Portland cement, Portland slag cement, fly ash based cement, calcinated clay based cement, hydrophobic cement. Nowadays, we can observe ultra high performance cement, that is UHPC, where we have understood based on the research which are acted on the different aspects, we have gone with such type of cement, that is UHPC, ultra high performance concrete. Next is transparent concrete. Like this, based on the application part of a cement, for application part of a concrete, we are designed the particular cement, right? The fly ash, we know that the fly ash percentage should be always less than 30%, right? If it is more than 30%, still the research is going on regarding this percentage of replacement of a fly ash, which is to be added with replacement of a cement. Similarly, hydrophobic cement, where the underwater construction, marine structures, huge amount of marine structures we can see in order to extract the oil, ports, ship harbors, like that, we require different application part of an concrete. This is what we call as hydrophobic cement. These are some of the different respective Indian standard codes which represents in order to manufacture such type of concrete. Let us move further. Yes, this is the cement chemical composition, where we need to understand the overall aspect of the chemical composition which is present in the cement. Generally, we know that cement is extracted from some amount of earth, right? Where generally the natural bodies such as lime, silica, alumina, iron oxide, magnesia, sulfur trioxide, soda, and potash. Like this, the percentage break off are there from 60 to 67% for the lime till 0.5 to 1.3% for soda and potash. Like that, you can identify the overall average from 63 to least 0.05 or 1 percentage of a particular chemical composition. Let us move further. We need to understand what this particular lime will gives for the cement, what the silica will provides for cement. Like that, we need to understand the each and individual aspect of a chemical contents. Yes, I hope everyone know what do you mean by Box compound. This is a major aspect we have written in our bachelor's, we have studied in our masters, and again we are talking regarding the Box compound. That is, the Box compound represents tricalcium aluminate, that is C3A, that is the short form of tricalcium aluminate, tetracalcium aluminoferrate, C4AF, tricalcium silicate, C3S, dicalcium silicate, C2S. Here we need to understand excuse, which chemical composition gives the property of a particular cement. Each and individual chemical composition will provide some or the other properties. Yes, for example, the iron content in the brick, which provides the red color, cherry red color. Like that, the lime content, which gives the bonding between the two different molecules. Like that, what these chemicals, tricalcium aluminate, whether it will give the early strength, early setting, prior setting, like that, we know that gypsum is added for the cement in order to slow down the setting time of a particular concrete. Let us move further. This is the overall composition, that is tricalcium aluminate, 3CaO Al2O3 or C3A, tricalcium aluminate. You need to understand the wordings, that is tricalcium aluminate and the chemical composition C3CaO Al2O3 or C3A is an abbreviation for this tricalcium aluminate. It is formed in 24 hours of addition of water. Maximum evolution of heat of hydration is taken place from this particular chemical. Tetracalcium aluminoferrate, same high heat hydration in the initial setting and formed within the 24 hours of addition of a water. This is why you need to cure the overall concrete in a particular standard format. Without leaving it to expose to the atmosphere, we need to cover it with gunny bags and cold curing or electric curing, any type of curing or water storage. Like that, you need to understand why you need to cure a particular concrete for a period of 7 days, 21 days, and 28 days, same as that of testing. Right? Tricalcium silicate formed within a week, responsible for initial strength of the cement. You need to always remember C3S, initial strength of the cement is obtained from the chemical compound that is tricalcium silicate. It contributes about 50 to 60% of the strength for a concrete. Fine. The C3S, the majority of the strength, that is the partial, that is half of the strength of the concrete is achieved from this particular chemical, that is tricalcium silicate. Content increase for the free fab concrete construction, cold weathering construction. Like this, you can segregate this particular type of chemical content based on the application part of an cement. Let us move further. That is the C2S, where you might expect the questions in such a way that directly they will ask, what is the prior strength? Which chemical will be constitutes for an early setting of a cement? You need to mention that it is a C3S. Like that, you need to always mention, you need to understand which chemical compound will leads to the different strength of an cement as well as concrete. It is directly proportional. It is a last compound formed during the hydration of a cement, responsible for progressive later stage strength. Structures require later stages strength, proportion of this component increases. Example, hydraulic structures, bridges. As the days goes on increasing, the strength also increases. It is majorly because of this type of chemicals. Fine. You can observe some of the chemicals which accumulate in these particular cement particle. You can observe here, if this is a cement grain, this is a cement grain. Let us assume that it's a cement grain where the C3S, C2S, C3A, and there are proportionately they are differentiated in such type of thing. If you observe the electronic microscope of these particular cement granules, you can see here the different particles which are actually accumulating on this particular cement grain. This will leads to the different heat of hydration, oozing out of water from the concrete. That is what you called as bleeding up of concrete, heat of hydration. All these are majorly due to this box compound. If you understand the box compound, then the concrete technology part will be somewhat easy. This is how a hourly basis graph is represented based on rate of heat generation. Fine. You can observe the initial reaction when you apply water. When you pour the water to the concrete mix, you can observe the initial reaction to the 14. You can observe the unit, right? And sudden decrease within a period of 6 hours. That is what you call as induction period, acceleratory period, decelerator period, right? You need to know the definition of these particular terms and the period of slow continued reaction. Within a period of 24 hours, you can observe such type of lagging graph, increasing and lagging graph. Fine. Yes. Next is super plasticizer. Why you need to add super plasticizer? Without adding any external agents, can you prepare the concrete? Yes, we can prepare, but the term workability will be reduced or increased or may have some disadvantages for concreting part. Here are some of the different super plasticizers, that is the chemical super plasticizers. There are natural super plasticizers like starch, many sulfates like that are there. We're coming to the chemical super plasticizers. Sulfonated melamine formaldehyde, which is called as SMF, sulfonated naphthalene formaldehyde SNF, modified lignosulfates MLS, polycarboxylated ethers PCE. Like this, there are some of the importance of these particular chemicals. Why you need to go on adding the plasticizers for such type of concreting purpose, right? You can observe, I hope everyone has studied regarding this concrete flock or cement flock. If the water is added to the cement, the granules will entrap the water. That is what you can observe here as a trapped water. Here cement grains will accumulate, will surround the particular water so that the water accumulation will be less in the cement. like that it will be carried out, right? Once if you add the superplasticizers or starch or anything it might be, right? These superplasticizers will dissolve this particular thing and water will be oozing out from this particular cement. That is what you call an interparticle repulsion will take place when the superplasticizers are added for a cement. Next, the water will be released. The entrapped water will be released from the cement grain. Hence, some of the water cement ratios will be reduced. Usage of water will be reduced. In turn, it will reduce us the heat of hydration, that is bleeding up of concrete. That is water oozing out of the concrete will be reduced. What happens if the enormous amount of water is added to the concrete? You can see that bleeding up of concrete will take place once it is setted. Later on, if that water vapors evaporates, you can observe the crackages which are formed on the concrete, which leads to the structural failure on later stages. These are the different effects, adverse effects, which are formed on the concreting structures. Hence, these are the precautionary measures which we need to take care before you are going for the construction aspect. Release of trapped water from the cement flocks by the action of superplasticizers, that is the mineral admixtures like fly ash, pulverized fuel ash, PFA, silica fume, microsilica, rice husk ash, ground granulated blast furnace slag, and metacoiling. GGBFS, rice husk ash, all these are the waste like agricultural waste, industrial waste, which are the byproduct which are obtained after manufacturing of some products like steel, anything it might be, right? These are the waste ಆರುಬೂದಿ ಅಂತಾರೆ, right? These are the waste which are used in terms of a plasticizers, which can be used as a super plasticizers. Yes, let us go for a expected questions, like a match the following. Here there are the match list 1 with respect to that of match list 2, whereas match list 1 is a grade of cement and age. Age represents how many days the particular grade of cement, right? That is the grade 33 for 7 days after laying the concrete with a grade 33 cement which are used, right? If you left for 7 days, what are the strength which will you obtain, right? With the list 2. Here, this 33, 43, this represents the overall strength for 28 days. I hope you are getting. This is the last day. It can be directly, we can assume that this 43, grade 43, 28, that is 43 MPa, right? That is Newton per mm square. We are getting 43. So B is matching with 2. So check with the options. B is a 2. Option 1 and 2 is representing with B2. Fine. Similarly, you need to understand at 7 days, at 3 days, right? You need to make a note like this with a different days. Generally, 3 days testing, 7 days testing, 21 days, and 28 days, so that you can remember these are the different days, right? This tabular column is more important for answering such type of questions, right? Grade 33, 43, and 53, you can check with the days. 3 days, 16, 22, 27. Here, let us check grade 33 for 7 days, right? Grade 33 for 7 days, it is 22. Here 22 option is there, right? A is 3. Just assume that A, you look here, A is 3 and B is 2. Generally it is for 28 days. If you get the question like this, you are lucky, right? If you get the question for a 28 days, easily you can identify the overall strength. So B2, A3. Next, I hope you can choose this particular option. Like this, you need to understand the overall grades with respect to that of strength, compressive strength of a concrete. Fine. Here is some of the problem on the chemical content based on the how much amount of sulfur will be liberated in this particular concrete, that is in the manufacturing of a concrete. This is general questions. A coal containing 2% of sulfur is burned completely to ash in a brick kiln at a rate of 30 kg per minute. The sulfur content in the ash was found to be 6% of the initial amount of sulfur present in the coal fed to the brick kiln. The molecular weights of sulfur, hydrogen, and oxygen are 32, 1, and 16. I hope you know this particular thing. If they won't give also, you can easily identify. I hope you remember all those things respectively. The annual rate of sulfur dioxide SO2 emission from the clean is, you need to identify the SO2 emissions. These are the GHGs, that is greenhouse gases, which are emitted from the different manufacturing of the products, whether it may be the like steel, concrete, brick, any products, that is industrial sectors, and that is construction sector, whatever the products which are going, there is some amount of GHG emissions like carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, SOx, NOx, COx, SOx, methane. Like this, there will be huge amount of GHG emission. In order to identify how much amount of these toxic gases are liberated, we need to calculate such type of activity. Right? Here you can observe the total amount of coal. This is a throughout a year of a process, right? You need to identify per year. That is 30 multiplied by 60 into 24 multiplied by 365. That is 30 is 30 gram per minute. Here you can observe the sulfur is burned completely to ash in a brick kiln at a rate of 30 kg per minute. Per minute, the 30 kg of it is burning. 60 minutes, 24 hours into 365 days. This is per kg per year. I hope you are getting the point, right? 1 crore 57 lakh 68,000 kg of overall coal is burning per year. Next, sulfur present in the coal. They have already mentioned that in that coal, the 2% of sulfur is present, right? It is burnt completely. So 0.02 multiplied by overall percentage of, that is overall amount of coal, you will get 3,15,360 kg of sulfur should be present in the coal. Next, sulfur content in the ash. Here they have already mentioned 6% of the initial amount of sulfur present in the coal fed to the brick kiln, right? So these 6% you need to identify, right? These 6% you need to identify how much amount of weight is generating. Now 0.6 multiplied by the previous value, you will get sulfur content in the ash. Next is remaining sulfur content. That is, you need to reduce the 6%, you will get the remaining percentage, that is 94.94. That is the overall sulfur content which are remaining in the coal, that is 2,96,438. And at the last, you need to identify how much amount of sulfur dioxide is liberated for a particular sulfur and oxygen, right? Sulfur 32, oxygen O2 16 into 2, overall sulfur dioxide is 64. Now keep this 64, 32 gram of sulfur produces 64 gram of sulfur dioxide, right? That is reactions. Now the obtained sulfur content in the previous answer, that is 2,96,438, how much amount of sulfur will be producing, right? That's the cross multiplication with respect to the of remaining sulfur content. You will get 592.88 tons. This is per year, just for a burning up of a coal. I hope you are getting the point, how much amount of toxic gases we are liberating in order to manufacturing a particular industrial product. Just a simple thing, that is a 30-year-old absorbs 193 pounds of CO2 per year, right? That is a 30-year-old trees absorb 193 pound, that is not in a kg, it's in 193 pounds of CO2 only per year. We are liberating more amount of carbon, sulfur, nitrous, like that. Fine. If we check with the overall global emissions or greenhouse gas emission from the different sectors, you can identify the global carbon dioxide emission by the sector like industry, transportation, building operation, and building material and construction itself, right? Only for the building material and construction, if you reduce the 11% of the particular emission, there will be huge amount of reduction in the global carbon dioxide emission. Here you can observe in the sentence, the buildings and construction sector accounted for 36% of final energy use and 39% of energy and process related to carbon dioxide emission in 2018. 11% of which resulted from the manufacturing of the building materials and products such as steel, cement, and glass. Other than the different materials like brick, concrete block, anything it might be, transportation sectors leaving behind that, only the 11% of our overall building material and construction is liberating, that is contributing for the greenhouse gas. What is this is an alarming situation, right? We need to understand the overall conventional method of construction with respect to that of green methodology of construction sector. Yes. Continuing with that, rate of hydration sequence, C4AF, tetra, aluminum ferrite, like this. These are the flow of the overall sequence. Some possible questions. Which of the following component is responsible for initial setting and early strength of cement? Initial setting and early strength. Both should be managed, right? Which is the answer for that particular thing? That is C2S. Just note down that early strength, that is your initial setting as well as the early strength of the cement is obtained by C2S, dicalcium silicate. The next question goes like this: the setting time of the cement is determined using Leach Ateliers apparatus, Brickworks testing apparatus, Vicat apparatus, Casagrande apparatus. Like this, we need to understand and recall the image of a particular apparatus, right? Leach Atelier apparatus, the soundness. We know that how this particular soundness test is carried out. We will use that particular instrument and tie it and leave it for a day, and we will check the difference in that particular needle. It shouldn't be more than 10 millimeter, that is 1 centimeter, because if the clay content is more in a particular cement as well as soil or anything it might be, this soundness, this test is used. Next, request testing apparatus. You need to picturize the testing apparatus. Request testing is for bitumen, right? Casagrande is for moisture content. You need to remember how the procedure of that particular test will be conducting. And at the last, Vicat apparatus is used for setting time. Hence, the answer for this particular thing is Vicat apparatus. Fine. Let us move further for the material. That is coarse and fine aggregate. I hope everyone knows the property, how these are graded, right? Based on the sieve analysis, all these things should be remembered and recalled once again, right? Coming to the top fine aggregate, we know that there are different aggregates in the fine aggregates itself based on the research. Now the robust sand is coming into the picture, where which is called as plastic sand, where M sand and river sand are major aspect of the construction sector in the concrete part. Fine, where M sand is manufacturer sand. Here manufacturer sand is compared with respect to that of river sand, where you need to check the application part, the strength, the organic impurities which are present in the both M sand and river sand. These are the differentiation you need to mention by yourself, right? And what will be the strength, what will be the cost, and what will be the environmental effect, which will be the more environmental effect, that is ecological imbalance, whether the river sand as well as the M sand, that is manufacturer sand. I hope everyone knows that M sand is obtained from the quarries, that is after the extraction of the stones, the remaining debris is represented as M sand. You can see in the bottom right, they are washing a particular quarry dust, where you can identify the fine granular particle of fine aggregate. That is what you call as first wash, second wash, third wash, fourth wash. Based on the types of washes, the fineness go on increasing. I hope everyone know the different classes of bricks, class of sand, right? First class, second class, third class, like that, based on the properties and strength. These classes are classified. right? Some of the tests which are made, I hope everyone knows the different tests like specific gravity, moisture content, grading, and some of the important thing, that is the bulking. How you need to identify the overall bulking up of sand. That is, you need to take the sample of sand to be tested of 20 centimeter height, and you need to take the complete same level of water and just pour a complete amount of water to that sand beaker. Now you can observe there will be some settlement in the sand. That is the complete saturated sand. You can observe there 16 centimeter of drop. It has come to 16 centimeter. That is 4 centimeter of drop has been identified. Here you need to check that similarly, like it shouldn't be less than 20% of its original height. Like this, the overall graphical representation of bulking of the sand is carried out. Coming to the of grading of sand, I hope everyone has solved such type of problems regarding the weight of aggregates retained in the sieve, cumulative percentage of weight retained and cumulative percentage of weight passed in a particular sieves we have observed, and based on the tabular column we have segregated that grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, like that zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, which is given in the IS course. Based on that, we will go on designing the concrete mix design. Right? These are some of the different sieves which are available according to the IS Indian standard size, sieve size. Right? 10, the less than 4.75 will be the fine aggregate, more than 4.75 will be the coarse aggregate. For this fineness, you need to do such type of grading. You take the random amount of samples and you need to check in which zone the particular sand will lie. So that you need to identify, they might ask 4.75 mm, what will be the grading of zone 3, 90 to 100, whether it is retaining or passing. Like that you can understand the overall graphical representation. This is the graphical representation of grading of fine aggregate and coarse aggregate. If you can see the picturization, the blue line represents the fine aggregate. I hope everyone has done such type of experiments, which is a standard procedure. Fine. Coming to the tough flexural strength of a concrete, right? This is the overall formulation. You need to remember, in order to identify the flexural strength of a concrete. That is FCR, flexural strength is given by 0.7 FCK, that is characteristic property of a concrete or cement, Newton per mm square. Modulus of elasticity is given by EC equals to 5700. It is depend upon the code. It has been changed from 1978 to 2000, from 5700 to 5000. Square root of characteristic property of a particular concrete that you need to identify. Let us go with a simple problem. Calculate the flexural strength of M20 grade concrete. Here, the M represents the mix and 20 represents the overall strength, right? Here, the flexural strength, you need to identify the flexural strength of a particular concrete. This will be the characteristic strength, right? The 20, you need to substitute in the FCK portion. The flexural strength FCR equals to 0.7 square root of 20. That is what it represents, right? Flexural strength is given by 3.13. This is a simple problem, right? Next, what is the ratio of flexural strength of a, just a second, to the characteristic compressive strength of a concrete FCK for M25 grade? Now they are asking the ratio, that is FCR divided by FCK. I hope you know the formula, 0.7 square root of FCK divided by FCK. Just you need to calculate 0.7 square root of 25 divided by 25. Just you need to calculate with a simple calculative procedure, right? This is zero point 0.7, the same thing I'm replicating. You will get 0.14, the option C. Like this, you need to identify with a single formula itself. Let us move further with a different material, that is the steel, structural steel, right? I hope you know the different structural steel which are available in the conventional method of construction in the market. TOR stands for Torsing Steel Corporation of Luxembourg. That is what we call as TOR steel. HYSD, high yielding strength deformed steel, and TMT, thermomechanically treated, fine, or twisted, that is TMT bars, which are having high strength reinforcement bars. The TMT, the thermomechanically treated or twisted, you can observe the grooves which are formed on this particular steel, which gives the cohesive force between the concrete as well as steel. These grooves represent the same thing, that is thermomechanically treated bars. Yes. Some of the classification of these steel, that is comparison of the structural steel, cast iron and wrought iron. How these type of irons are that's generated, that is obtained. You can see the graphical representation, that is iron ore, pig iron, which are obtained in the blast furnace. It is categorized into cast iron, wrought iron, as well as steel. It has been differentiated to three different aspects based on the application part. Cast iron, you can see the historical monuments. Wrought iron, you can see for the high yield strength of the overall structure, like security purpose, gate, like that. Steel, generally you will utilize the steel for the construction of reinforcement. Yes. Coming to that of chemical composition in the steel. Generally, enormous amount of chemical like bauxite, iron ore, manganese, many of the ores of iron, right? You need to extract the iron from the particular ores, right? There are different chemical materials like carbon. The percentage of carbon varies from 0.15 to 0.3, which leads to the higher strength and lower ductility. That is, the present of carbon should be there in a nominal amount. It shouldn't be more or it shouldn't be less, which leads to the different characteristic property. That is what the higher strength and lower ductility. Manganese 0.5 to 1.7, hot rolling steel. Aluminum deoxidizer. Chromium corrosion resistance. I hope everyone has seen such type of chromium plated, right? Nickel plated or chromium plated means they will galvanize the particular steel or iron based on this chromium or nickel. The automobiles which are we are using, which are seeing, that are all chromium plated on a particular thing. That is the corrosion resistance particles which are naturally present in the particular steel. Next, colloquium, strengthening and strength enhancing corrosion resistance. And coming to that of copper, you can see the 0.2% anti-corrosion components. Coming to that of nickel, where 0.25 to 1.25, that is fracture toughness. Phosphorus and sulfur, 0.04 to 0.05. These are the percentages which are present in the steel. Silicon, 0.4 deoxidizer, which acts as a deoxidizer. Vanadium, finer crystalline microstructures, fracture toughness. I hope if we remember the vanadium steels, right? Somewhere we have heard such type of vanadium steels. Fine. Coming to that of market availability of a steel, right? The rolling structures, the rolling sections, I section, L section, angle, C section, I section, H section, like this. There are different types of section. That is what you call as rolling sections or rolling steel. It is angle section, channel sections, corrugated, expanded, T section, I section, plates, ribbed, I yield strength, deformed bars, that is HYSD bars, round bars, square bars, flat bars, ribbed mild steel, TMT, thermomechanically treated, welded wire fabrics or chicken mesh. I hope you have seen the fiber reinforced concrete which are used in the fiber reinforced cementitious properties. These are the different rolling sections, that is what you call as rolling channel sections, which are used in order to generate the structural steel structures, right? Like toll plazas, airports, right? All these railway stations are made up of such type of steel joints. You need to check with the length. I hope everyone has gone through ISMB, ISHB. Like that, you need to understand the overall property of an steel. Coming to the of crown corrosion in a reinforced concrete sewer is caused by, right? This is one of the question which we took from the GATE previous year question paper. That is crown corrosion in a reinforcement concrete sewer is caused by, right? The crown represents the topmost position of any object, right? Here the water movement will be in the bottommost position, right? Whenever there is a flood, in such places you can observe the full length flow. I hope you have gone with the water supply and sanitation, that is off flow, full flow, quarter flow, like that. In the rainy season or any different activities, the full flow will be occurring. Other than that, there will be only the partial amount of flow, water flow will be there. Here there is a corrosion. You can observe around 3/4 portion of these pipe, that is concrete, that is reinforced concrete pipe, is corroded because H2S, hydrogen sulfide, CO2, carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous, which will cause in order to take place such type of corrosion activity. Let us move. Sulfide in the liquid make their way to the surface of the sewage and released into the sewer atmosphere as hydrogen sulfide gas. Bacterial action converts H2S gas to sulfuric acid, which causes the corrosion in the crown of a pipe. And this corrosion is also known as crown corrosion. This H2S gas, which is liberated from the sewer lines, will be accumulated on the topmost position of these sewer lines, right? That's why when they go into the particular sewer lines, they will just dip a candle or some fire into that particular thing in order to check whether these type of gas, methane gas, hydrogen sulfide gas, the toxic gases are present or not, right? Easily it will catches fire and immediate burst will take place due to these gases, right? That is what the biogas, extraction of the biogas. Yes, coming to the top, very important material, that is the soil. We know the different composition of the soil: sand, silt, and clay. These are some of the percentages which you can observe in the soil, right? Based on the percentages, if the clay content is more, it is called as clay soil, sandy soil. Like that, there are different types of soils based on the climatic aspects. Let us move further. What will be, why you require the soil in order to manufacture some of the products? The major thing is brick. Brick is manufactured from the raw product, that is soil. Whether will you consider any type of soil in order to manufacture the brick? No, right? We need to avoid some type of soil, that is like black cotton soil should be avoided, like silt soil should be avoided, right? The proposition, that is the proportion of a overall composition of the soil such as clay, sand, and silt should be in an equal proportion. We shouldn't be more or less, right? Then only we can utilize in order to construct for a particular brick. We know that standard size of a brick, according to the theory, that is 190 by 90 by 90 and 190 by 90 by 40. That is 190 by 90 by 90 centimeter, sorry, millimeter, which represents the load bearing wall, fine, double brick, and 190 by 90 by 40 millimeters, that is 19 by 9 by 4 centimeters, which represents the partition wall, which is called as 4-inch wall as well as 9-inch walls, fine. Brick may be made up of burnt clay or mixture of sand and lime or of Portland cement concrete. Clay bricks are commonly used since these are economical and easily available, right? From the previous things, if we check with the economical aspect, financial aspect, and availability and local availability, all this will be very good for the manufacturing of a particular brick. Some of the technical languages like closures, bats, queen closure, king closures, right? 3/4 bat. All these things should be remembered in order to answers. Don't know which type of questions you might get in the particular GATE 2022, right? Frog, one of the best example, that is frog. Why that particular frogs should be added for a brick, right? Some of the grooves you can observe, the grooves which are present on the brick, right? It might be the trademark. It might be the established year of your particular company, 1972 or 1970, like that. Anything it might be, right? These particular frogs should be always there in the particular brick in order to have the good friction resist between the particular courses. Courses represents the each individual brick of a particular masonry wall. Yes, some of the field test which should be conducted on the brick is the first thing is the dimension test, where the dimension test indicates the warpage, that is warpage of particular brick. How much amount of brick is warped, right? That is bent. Whether it is bent vertically or longitudinally, it depends upon the manufacturing process. It warpage will take place based on the lifting position also. Fine. You need to check with the dimension 190 by 90 by 90, 190 by 90 by 40, whether it is obeying that particular dimension. That is only the dimension test. Next is drop test. Generally, lift your hand till your shoulder level and just drop a particular brick, whether it should be breakable or non-breakable based on the types of manufacturing of brick. That is only the drop test. Remember, the drop test height is 1.5 meters. Fine. Next is scratch test. Just you can scratch a two bricks. It shouldn't leave any mark on the particular brick. Next is it should give a ringing metallic bell sound when it is struck between each other. If it is broken, you need to directly reject such type of bricks. Next, here are some of the different tests, that is absorption test based on the types of brick. That is class 1 brick, class 2 brick, class 3 brick, right? Based on the strength, based on the absorption ratio, based on the warpage test, like this, it has been classified. A good quality brick shouldn't exceed 20% of its dry weight, right? That is what you call as absorption test, water absorption test. You need to dip a particular brick in a full of water bucket and you need to leave it for a 24 hours and you need to check a weight of a brick. It shouldn't exceed the 20% of its original dry weight because it represents the porosity in the brick will be more. If it is used for the masonry construction, then the plastering crack, later on it leads to the structural crack. Like this, it affects the different structural aspects. The minimum compressive strength of a brick is 3.5. It shouldn't be less than 3.5. For class 1, it depends from 35 to 3.5. You can just observe in this particular class of a brick from 3.5 to 35, which the average compressive strength which should not be less than 3.5 Newton per mm square. It is classified based on the IS 1077. Next, ingredients of a good brick. I hope everyone knows what are the different chemicals which are present in the brick. So just it's a refreshment thing like silica. What happens if the silica content is more than 70%? What happens if the alumina is more than 20 to 30%, more than 40%, lime 10%, magnesium less than 1, ferric less than 7, alkalis less than 10, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, water very small percentages. Based on the moisture content which are present in the soil, then only you can observe such type of chemicals, water, sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide. Here you can just observe silica. What happens if the silica is present in the brick? It retains its shapes and imparts the durability, prevents shrinkage and warping. Warping, that is the bend of a particular brick. It will be avoided by a particular chemical content. Next, shape retaining, right? After drying up of particular brick, the shape will be retained. That property is brought from the silica content. Alumina absorbs water and renders the clay plasticity. If alumina is present in excess, the specified quantity produces cracks in the brick on drying. I hope you have done the plasticity experiments. Just a simple thing, just you can take some amount of soil and make some moisture for the particular soil and just rub to your hand at some specified time. The particular soil will break. And that breakages represents the type of alumina present in the soil. Next line, normally constitute less than 10% of a clay. Always it should be less than 10% of a clay content. Lime in brick clay has the following effects. It reduces shrinkage, causes silica in the clay to melt on burning and this helps to bind it. In carbonated form, lime lowers the fusion point. Excess of lime causes the brick to melt and brick loses its shapes. Red bricks are obtained on burning at considerable high temperature, more than 800 degree Celsius. These are some of the major aspects of the conventional method of brick preparation. Right here, in order to reduce the clay content, you are going to burn the particular soil. That is what you call as stability of an brick or stability of an soil. Right, like this you need to understand what are the different chemicals are added, why it should be required. Right, they might ask which chemical will cause for reducing the shrinkage on drying. Right, you need to understand that lime content will be effect for such type of activity. Fine. Yes, let's moving further. Yeah, magnesia rarely exceeding 1% affects the color and makes the brick yellow, which gives the efflorescence. Efflorescence, right, the coloring after the brick is exposed to the atmosphere, that is alternative wetness and dryness of a brick. These particular efflorescence will takes place in the brick thing. Iron oxide, this gives the coloring property, dark brown, cherry red. It is because of the iron. The strength and durability is obtained from this iron content. Iron oxide constituting less than 7% of a clay imparts the following properties: gives the red color on burning. When excess of oxygen is available, the dark brown or even black color when oxygen is available insufficient. However, excess of ferric oxide makes the brick dark blue and it will be more ductile. Easily it will break. Improves impermeability and durability. The porosity will be less if the iron content is present in the brick. Tends to lower the fusion point of the clay, especially if present as ferrous oxide, and gives the strength and hardness for a brick. Yes. General, just I will scroll it out. For the manufacturing of the clay bricks, preparation of the earth, you need to check with the moisture content and nominal amount of ratio should be checked. Molding, placing that soil into the mold. Drying, drying process for 24 hours. Later on, you need to take it for stacking in order to burn, in order to get that brick stability. Then only you will get a good quality of a brick. This is the overall procedure of an brick manufacturing process. Yes, generally, just a second. Generally, in order to reduce this clay content in the brick, we burn, right? While burning this, huge amount of carbon dioxide emissions will take place. As I told, the 11% of the overall greenhouse gases are emitted from the building material itself. Yes, in order to reduce or in order to suppress the clay content in this particular brick, they will go on burning. Such huge process is carried out, which liberates the huge amount of carbon dioxide, right? Whereas, I hope you know regarding the stabilized mud block. That is stabilized mud block, which represents the mud block is stabilized by using 8%, 10%, and 12% of cement content. Right, these 8, 10, 12 percentage of cement adding to the top soil will reduces the clay percentage. Right, in this burning process there will be complete nullification of clay, it will be complete dead. But in this thing you can get back the clay, right? Just you are stabilizing by adding 8%, 10%, as well as 12% based on the clay content, how much amount of clay is present, that is percentage of clay, whether it is 30%, 50%, 60%. Based on the percentage of the clay, you need to add such type of cement in order to get the stabilized mud block. This is what the alternative building materials which represents in order to go with respect to that of environmental friendly blocks, right? There will be no need of stacking as well as burning process. Just add the cement and press it with a pressing machine. Some of the different manufacturing process, somewhere we have seen 2000 or 3000 or 4000 bricks per day, but you can observe there will be lakhs together of bricks which are manufactured in a day, right? That is what like a clean and a clamp. Generally you will see such type of clean clamp type of thing in many places, right? This is a that is the general type of clamp process which are used for the manufacturing of the brick. Whereas you need to identify the clean process. This is the graphical representation of a clean method, how the bricks are carried out, right? This is the burning area. This is completely the overall stacking part. Just the bricks will be stacked around this and burning process takes place, right? There will be no losses of a particular brick in such places, right? These bricks are not used for the construction aspect wherever the burning is near to the fire, that is sources of fire, right? In such places, in the clean, you cannot observe the wastage of brick. You can observe in these type of clamp only 60 percentage of the bricks are obtained. Reducing remove other than the 60%, that is 40% is of wastage which are obtained in this portion, right? Next, the average outturn of second class bricks in the clean is 80 to 90% in this particular type of manufacturing process. Next material is timber. Since till now there was no questions on the timber, just for the syllabus sake, we are concentrating on the timber as a construction materials. We need to understand which are the different layers, how the season wood are obtained based on the annual rings. We can identify the overall age of a particular timber, and you need to identify the particular smell of the timber, sound of the timber. Based on this smell and sound itself, we can identify a particular wood is well suited for the construction of frames of a doors, windows and ventilators, or anything it might be for the furnitures, right? We know the hardest part of a wood is hardwood, which is obtained. The complete artwood is in like rosewood, teak, tamarind. Like this, you can observe in such type of woods. Coming to the tough classification, trees are classified into exogenous and endogenous. In exogenous, coniferous and deciduous, that is softwood and hardwood. Based on the leaves, you can identify the coniferous as well as deciduous, where the coniferous will be having the sharp and pointed needle-like leaves. For example, is Ashoka tree and Christmas tree, anything it might be. Deciduous, you can see the teak, rosewood, tamarind, all these are deciduous type of wood. Coming to the next portion of the type of construction and the classification, which comes in the project management, planning and management. I hope everyone knows the overall phases of the construction, right? I have differentiated these phases of construction into four different phases. That is not in general aspects, that is design, execute, operation and maintenance, and the deconstruction. Whereas here you can observe in the design phase, you can get into the touch with the planning, 3D, modeling, like that you can observe in the design phase. And the execution, the overall construction aspect takes place, major aspects in this execution, and the operation and maintenance, right? Throughout your building lifespan, these operation and maintenance phase will takes place into the picture. And at the last is deconstruction. It's not a destruction or demolition. We can call it as deconstruction. Nowadays, there is huge amount of research on C&D waste, that is construction and demolition waste. This is how the overall phases of construction takes place. Purpose, why you are going to design this particular building, whether it's a institutional, hospital, residential, commercial, like this, you need to identify which type of building is going to come in the particular place, and the building design. Later on, the procurement of different materials in order to build the building. Next is construction, that is the execution phase, and the building operation and maintenance phase, and at the last of its life cycle, building ends, what next? Right? That is what where we are concentrating majorly on C and D waste, that is construction and demolition waste, how it can be recycled, post recycled content, pre recycled content, how much amount of post recycled content, that is recycled content, is added in that brick, right? If that brick is life cycle is ended, how much amount of that brick can be utilized for another construction activities, post recycled content, pre recycled content. Like this, you need to identify the different recycled content in this particular material. Next, classification of construction itself, like general thing, residential, institutional, commercial, industrial, transportation sector, and heavy construction. Like this, you need to identify the different classification of construction, where we can remember this flow chart. That is the structural building system, conventional column beam slab frame system with timber and plywood as a formwork, cast in situ system with steel and aluminum as a formwork. In that, what are the different things we are generating, right? Coming to that of estimation and costing of a particular infrastructures, you need to identify which type of a buildings we are going to plan. If my budget is matching for that or not, space constraint, economical constraint, environmental constraint, societal constraint. Like this, there are enormous amount of constraints once you are going to take place any huge amount of construction, right? These are the different aspects in order to get a BOQ. BOQ represents the bill of quantities, or in order to generate the DPRs, that is detailed project reports, you require the estimation and costing. For example, in order to construct a G plus 8 floor building, what will be the cost? What will be the materials? What will be the area which is surrounding? All these things will be present in that particular bill of quantity, right? BOQs. That is starting from the sketch till its finishing stage. You will identify such type of thing in the BOQ. Drawing like plan elevation sections of the important points, detailed specification about workmanship and the properties of the material, standard schedules of rates of the current year. That is standard schedule rates, SR. It is called as scheduled rates, SR in a particular year. It will vary, right? It might vary weeks together, months together, like that. It will vary day to day, right? Why you require, what is the objective of estimation, right? It will get a clear picture before starting the construction, right? It is like a preparing the model, 3D model, how your building look like. It's like a prevention is better than cure, right? It gives a proper idea regarding the detailed project report, and at what time the projects might be started and it might be completed, right? It requires the invite tenders, quotation, and to arrange the contract. Estimation is also required to control expenditure during the execution of the work, that is the cost control. Either it might be the cost control and labor control. Estimate decides whether the proposed plan matches the funds available or not. These are the different aspects where we are concentrating in the part of estimation as well as costing thing. Next is tendering. Like we are aware of the different contracts like labor contract as well as material contract. Generally, we have seen such type of contracts in a conventional methodology, right? If you go with the proper types of contracts, you can see there are different aspects: lump sum, unit price, cost plus cost price, that is incentive contracts, percentage of construction fee contracts, like this, based on the labor contract as well as material contract. I hope everyone has seen, remember regarding the how much amount of labor contract or material contract per square feet. Like this, they are giving the main types of contracts: price based, cost based. Price based, in that unit rate, lump sum rate. Next, cost based, cost reimbursement, and at the last is target cost. Here you can measure and pay the overall aspect in the price based contracts. It is the add measurements. In the cost based measurements, cost plus fixed fee, cost plus fixed percentage for a contract, cost plus fixed fee with a guaranteed maximum price. Like this, there are different tenders which are called in the different aspects. Yes, some of the questions which are considered from the previous year. Given that scope of the construction work is well defined with all its drawing, all the drawings and plans have been already given. Specification, quantities, and estimation. Which one of the following types of contract would you prefer? Right? You need to understand the overall definition of this type of contract. Right? First is engineering, procurement, and construction. EPC. Right? Already you are having the drawings, quantities, BOQs, DPR, everything is there. Which type of contract you are going to give? That is the question. EPC contract represents particular form of contracting arrangement of use in industries where EPC contractor is made responsible for all activities. Once if you are giving this type of contract, from starting from the sketch till the end, it should be given to such type of EPC thing. That is what we called as EPC contract, commissioning and handing over the projects to the end user or owner. This is how EPC contract, which doesn't suit for the question. Similarly, you need to understand the overall aspect. Percentage rate concrete contract, right? You need to check with the different definitions of this particular thing. And at the last, the answer you need to identify already everything we are having. Just we need to go with the execution part. That is what we call a lump sum contract. That is type is based on the single tendered price for a whole works. That will be the answer. That is option D. That is lump sum contract. Next question. For a construction project, the mean and standard deviation of the completion time are 200 days and 6.1 days respectively. Assume normal distribution and use the value of standard normal deviate z equals to 1.64 for 95% of confidence level. The maximum time required. You need to identify the maximum time required for the completion of a overall project. Just remember this formula. Z, that is standard normal deviate, is Ts minus Te by sigma, where standard normal deviate equals to Ts, time required in days for the completion of the project. T is the mean deviation and sigma is standard deviation. Just substitute. We require Ts, time required in days for the completion of the project. Right? You need to identify the Ts. So substitute the value. Now 1.64, that is Z is given. Ts we need to identify as 200 is the day mean deviation. Already it is given in the 200 days, and the standard deviation is 6.1 days. Right? You can assume that means the answer is 210 days. This is a type of description part. You need to type this particular thing. Yes. Coming to the top of project management. Why you require the project management? Right? It is a discipline of initiating, planning, executing, control, and closing the work of a team to achieve the specific goals and meet the specific success criteria. Here we can call it as work breakdown structures, network diagrams, right? For example, without completion of the foundation, you cannot go for the masonry wall, right? That is not a top-down construction. It's a bottom-up construction. You need to identify which type of constructions you are going to take place. That is what you call a initiate. Form the team, write a character. Next, plan, communication plan, project plan. Next, project closure of the project activities, capture, test, learn, celebrate, right? Execute, complete the task, monitor the progress. These are the things which we need to understand while doing the project management, right? That is what we called as a critical path method, right? Which we need to understand the critical path of a construction aspect. For example, I need to complete this building in a 6 months. That is what the critical path represents. Means from the starting of the day till the end of the day, which part will reduce us the time, which part will consume the time, whether concreting will consume the time, whether foundation will consume the time, whether the interiors will consume the time, right? These things you need to plan in the earlier stage itself. The sequence of the project activities which add up to the longest overall duration. The critical path determines the shortest time possible to complete the project. Fine. This is how you need to identify the critical path method. I hope you are getting the point, right? You need to identify from the start to finish. Fine. Just a second, guys. Yeah. You can go with the start. What are the different aspects we are checking with the construction aspect, right? That is what we call as critical path method. Is basically a step-by-step project management, right? Next, the technique that separates the planning and scheduling. It also clarifies the interrelationship of the time and cost. Yes. Let us move further. What are the major points we need to identify in order to go with a critical path method, right? Here, step one, specify each activity, right? Other than the identifying the project, you need to specify each parts, that is activity. In order, you need to identify each activity. That is what you call as specifying the each activities, right? Like plastering, finishing, interior work, flooring, all these things should be identified. Next, step 2, establish dependencies, that is activity sequence. You need to identify the dependencies, that is predecessors as well as the successors. Next, draw the network diagram, estimate the activity completion time, identify the critical path, update the critical path diagram to show the progress. Wherever you need to check with the critical path. Fine. Just moving further, how to identify. You can just look into your eyes with the pictorial representation from task A to task H. You can just observe below the wordings. You can observe the number of days a particular task A will takes place, that is the 10 days, task C 25, like that. You need to go with the flow. Here you can identify which task will obstruct the completion of project task H, right? That is the critical path. Yes, here is one of the activities, which is the last activity of this session. That is, there will be an activity PQRSTUV and depends on, for example, Q depends on P. Without completion of the P, you cannot start the Q, right? That is what the predecessors and successors represent, right? In order to go from P to Q, what is the number of days, right? Here, estimate the minimum time in days for the completion of the project will be, one is 60, 49, 51, 35. By looking into the table, you cannot identify. You need to draw a particular network diagram, right? This is how you need to draw. I have replicated this question PQRSTUV and depends on this particular thing, that is predecessors, right? And the duration I have mentioned here. I hope you can have a look at this particular drawing, right? Yeah, you can see from the P it takes 6 days, and like that it goes on based on the activities, right? To 12 days, from next to next activities it takes 14 days, like that. Activity on arrow, that is what you call as AOA diagram, from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, and 4 to 5, and 5 to 7. I am just considering the straight diagram, right? Just a second. Yeah, fine. The straight line 1, 2, 4, 5, 7. It is taking 41 days, 49 days. Just count the below numbers, right? 6, 15, 12, 16. You need to count this, right? Next, the time along the path. 1, just a second, I will take the pointer. Yes. The first thing is 1, 2, 4, 5, 7 is calculated. How much days it will take? Now 1, 2, 3. Now we go with this flow. 1, 2, 3. Come back to the 4, 6, and 7. What is the time it will consider for going in this path? You need to identify. Next is again going with 1, 2, 4. You need to check with the 1, 2, 4, 6, 7. Here you need to identify the least amount of path, that is time along the path 1, 2, 4, 6, 7. Just consider 49 days on the straight line. Second line is 46 days, and the last is 51 days. In order to complete this particular thing, 51 days, that is a critical path. Without completing the 51 days, you cannot process, that is complete this particular thing. Minimum time of completion of the project will be 51 days. I hope you got. Now the answer is option 3, that is 51 days. Like this, you need to identify the overall critical path of a particular any project. You need to go with a diagram, that is AOA diagram, activity on arrow diagram or network diagram, and coming to that of work breakdown structures. All these things should be added in order to know the particular project is having a critical path at different dates, right? Yes. By this, I will conclude the construction materials and management session. If you have any queries, you can just contact to my email, as well as you can drop a queries to this number. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Abhilash sir. It was a very useful session. We have our next session at 3:45. On behalf of department, on my personal behalf, I wholeheartedly thank Professor Abhilash B L for this session. Thank you, sir.
Thank
So
you,
our
Arjun
next
sir.
session will be at 3:45. Stay tuned. Thank you.